because I'm a big coach for, yes, tactics and technique is such a big thing, but for me, pride and passion and emotion is so important to playing football that we all love. Football's an emotive thing. It's supposed to make you happy. It's supposed to make you jump out of your seat with joy.
Sure.
And so when the players play with emotion, I think we're more likely to reach those levels that we're all aspiring to.
Yeah, and talking about those playing at home, it's interesting to know that players that are celebrated in the team as big as Yankuba Minte, for example, have never played at home. That's so interesting.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable. We looked back in one of the camps in the fall, in the autumn. We actually did a little survey of the players just because I was interested at it. And of the 23 players that were in one of the squads, only 3 of them had played at home.
Only 3 of them got the luxury of playing at the Independence Stadium with that
Gambia.
red jersey.
Yeah, so that is remarkable. Now we're hoping that that chapter of our footballing history is coming to an end soon. You know, that obviously the AFCON qualifiers will start in September of this year for us, and everything I'm being told, everything I'm hearing is that we will be back at home for those games.
Yeah.
But definitely. To have this game right next door with our neighbours is a great opportunity.
And I could say that you will be overwhelmed with the media.
Organised friendlies, because people maybe on the outside don't appreciate how difficult it is to organise friendlies. Because the first thing when you're speaking to a federation about a friendly game, especially if they don't know us so well, is they look at the world ranking.
Sure.
And we're currently ranked in around 115, 120. But that's sort of a historical thing, because remember several years ago the Gambia were ranked like 150, 160, and so
up to 170 at a time.
Yeah, and so this explosion of talent that we've seen over the last 6-7 years, we have gradually been moving our way up. But I personally believe wholeheartedly that the players we have in the team, we're really more of a 70 to 80 ranked nation. But when we go and approach teams for friendlies, they're like, oh, but you're 120, we don't want to play someone so lowly ranked. And so, you know, the effort that we've got to go into to organizing.
The pride, you know, the stake in it and everything, you know, and considering that Senegal are, let's say, disputed African champions, you know, they have a lot of strength in their team, both on the pitch and also they have a big strength in depth. So, tactically, how would you want to adapt in the game to counter Senegal's strength?
Look, every game has its own unique features.
Sure.
And for us, it depends. As a coach, all coaches have different views on how they train their teams and build their teams. For me, when you have a team of high quality, which I believe the Gambia is, I'm always of a belief that your preparation is 70% about you and what you do and imposing yourself on the game and getting your match winners on the ball. And 30% is about, okay, what do we need to tweak slightly to counter certain individuals or certain tactical approaches that the opponent have. So 70% about yourself, 30% about the opponent. If you're a very weak team, if you're maybe a country ranked 200 in the world or 180 in the world and you're playing a country ranked 50th in the world, maybe it's the opposite way around. Maybe you're training 70% about the opponent and only 30% about you. But so for us, it's always, we've got quality. So training's always 70% about us. We know who we are. We know what our strengths are. We also know what our weaknesses are. And we're continually working on both of them to try and improve and try and raise our level and cut out little mistakes that might come along the way. But naturally, like same with any match, we don't treat a friendly any differently to a competitive match in terms of our 3 players. 11 will start. In a competitive game, you're allowed 5 substitutions. In a friendly, you're allowed 6. So against this game, against Senegal, the maximum number of players who will make it onto the grass will be 17. That means there's 6 players who will not play. They will not play. Now, some people might think this strange, but we sort of know there's at least 2 or 3 players who we've selected to the squad that we probably think, his chances of making it onto the grass are less. September and October have been merged into one window. So now annually, each window's like 9-10 days long. So we spend about 40 days with the players in camp every year.
Yeah.
Whereas in a club environment, you spend 300 days face to face. Now, yes, every week I'm talking with the players on the phone, on video calls, and even, you know, I spend so little time at my house. I travel so much. Like I was I was at my house for 1 week before coming to the Gambia, but prior to that I was in England for a number of days catching up with our players. Prior to that I was in Saudi Arabia for close to 2 weeks catching up with our guys there. Prior to that I was in the Czech Republic catching up with our guys there. And part of it is going to the games and watching and talking to the clubs about how they feel the players doing in their programs. But another big part of it is spending time with the players, going out to dinner, going and meeting their families, and
Hello and a warm welcome to once again our special podcast that we do here on KN Network via Ultimate Media. And as always, I am your host, Ibrahim Adabo. And today, I have a special guest. He's not a regular guest on many of the programs, but we are very much happy to host him today to talk about the high-stake friendly between the Gambia and Senegal on March 31st this year, 2026. Welcome to our podcast, Coach John.
No, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to having a good chat.
Thank you. So your team, the Scorpions, finally, for a very long time, we're playing a friendly with our neighbors. I know it's a friendly, but it's a high-stake event, and there's a lot of pride in it. How do you receive the news of playing Senegal in a friendly?
Yeah, look, it's something we're looking forward to very much. The federation, the players, the staff, everyone inside the building, you know, has as much anticipation for it as the people outside the building, the fans, the media. Yes, it is a friendly. There's no points at stake for it, although FIFA rankings are important for our next qualification bid. But I think with any historic rivalry, even a friendly rivalry, you look at England versus Scotland, Argentina versus Brazil, Mexico v. the USA, Gambia versus Senegal.
Sure.
There's nothing like a true friendly because you want to go and I mentioned this in our press conference the other day, Senegal, I'm sure, would very much view the Gambia as the little brother.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm the youngest of 4 in my family, and I know growing up, I always wanted to do better and to come out on top against my older siblings.
Yes.
And so in this game, it's a little bit like that. It's that familial rivalry.
Yeah,
that
they
we
always
have.
see us as little brothers.
Yeah, but I think now they will definitely be concerned about the game because we have players, not just players who are playing regularly in Europe, as almost all of the guys are, but at really good levels of the game. Guys in the Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, you know, these are players you don't play at that level unless you have the ability to be a match winner.
Sure.
And so the fact that we have several match winners playing at the highest level of world football now available for the Gambia means that in Senegal's preparations, they're going to be highlighting those players and saying, right, we need to manage them. Sure. So we have players that can cause them problems and be match winners, but equally we know Senegal have players that can also cause us problems and be match winners. So it's going to be a game that there's going to be periods in the game where we're going to have to defend really well and try and stop Senegal from exerting their dominance. But equally, there will also be phases in the game where we will be on top of the game, where Senegal will have to defend very well to try and stop us from having success. So it's a game that I think for 90 minutes is going to be really just energetic and really intriguing. Yeah. But for us, you know, we always want to test ourselves against the best nations in the world. And I think over the last 2 years, when we've played against the toughest opponents, the Tunisias, the Ivory Coasts, the Gabons, we haven't always won the games, but we've always brought top performances to the table. And so that's what we expect again going to Dakar, that we'll bring a top performance. And look, we've never come out on the winning side at senior level against Senegal, but there's definitely the opportunity for this to be a bit of history, but it's going to take a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck as well.
Definitely. And I know there are a lot of fans anticipating that to say, oh, probably this could be the best opportunity for us to have our first victory against them. But then looking at the team, the Gambia now has a bigger player pool than before. I know it has always been a pride to play for the national team, but the pride becomes higher now considering our player pool. But also there's a lot of significance as we talk about the high stake, game, high pride nature of it, and all the circumstances surrounding Gambia playing at home. How does your players feel when they receive the call up to say they've made the squad to play against Senegal?
Yeah. I think, look, to widen it out even beyond the Senegal game first, I think the players, there is a huge amount of pride of pulling on that jersey.
Sure.
You got to remember that probably quite unique for especially the West African context, almost the majority, 85, 90% of our players are born and bred in the Gambia. They've grown up here, going to the stadium, watching, these, legends of Gambian football, taking inspiration from the likes of Biri Biri and other people like Abdou Jammeh now on our coaching staff. These guys have inspired the next generation. That's not to say the 10 or 15% who were born outside still also have huge amount of pride. You can't look at someone like Ibu Adams, who was born in England, and say he lacks any pride or passion. He is one of the most passionate players when he pulls on that scorpion shirt. So, but I think we've got a group of players who pulling on that red jersey means so much to them and their families. Now, when you come to a game against Senegal, again, the historical friendly rivalry, and even within families, there will be wings of the family that is Gambian, wings of the family that is Senegalese. And so it just adds that extra bit of flavor, that extra bit of spice to it. And look, but I think even beyond that, it's well documented how long it's been since we've played at home. And this is not a home game, but it's a game where there's a huge Gambian population already in Senegal and Dakar who will likely come to the game. And obviously, it's a lot easier, more straightforward to travel here from the Gambia into Senegal by various means. We expect a good amount of supporters there, but beyond that, the players' families are going to be there. And for so many of these players, you got to remember that probably about 80% of the squad have never played at home for the Scorpions, which means
and that's extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. It is extraordinary. And when you think that it's not just about home advantage. Imagine if you are a young player who's 19, 20, 21, like so many of our players now are. The average age of our squad is around 24. It's a very young team. Imagine these guys have played 10, 15 times for their national team, and they've never played in front of their parents. They've never played in front of their brothers or sisters. And then when you finally get the opportunity to do that, which the majority of them will when we play in Dakar in a couple of weeks' time, how much pride and emotion that brings beyond just representing your nation. And so I think this is actually more than playing against Senegal. That's important to the guys, but I feel that playing in front of their family and their close friends for the first time for many of them is going to be something really special for them. And that's why I look at the game in a different context and, what is that going to mean for our performance levels? How high are we going to be able to reach? Because I'm a big coach for, yes, tactics and technique is such a big thing, but for me, pride and passion and emotion is so important to playing football that we all love. Football's an emotive thing. It's supposed to make you happy. It's supposed to make you jump out of your seat with joy. And so when the players play with emotion, I think we're more likely to reach those levels that we're all aspiring to.
Yeah, and talking about those playing at home, it's interesting to know that players that are celebrated in the team as big as Yankuba Minte, for example, have never played at home. That's so interesting.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable. We looked back in one of the camps in the fall, in the autumn. We actually did a little survey of the players just because I was interested at it. And of the 23 players that were in one of the squads, only 3 of them had played at home.
Only 3 of them got the luxury of playing at the Independence Stadium with that
Gambia.
red jersey.
Yeah, so that That is remarkable. Now we're hoping that that chapter of our footballing history is coming to an end soon. That obviously the AFCON qualifiers will start in September of this year for us, and everything I'm being told, everything I'm hearing is that we will be back at home for those games. Yeah. But definitely to have this game right next door with our neighbours is a great opportunity.
And I could say that you will be overwhelmed with the media presence too, because already it is confirmed that over 40 journalists from the Gambia will travel to Senegal. So during your post-match interviews, probably you will be stunned by a lot of Gambian journalists. So you could prepare yourself for that as well.
Yeah, but that's good. And that's what we want, because the media connects, the supporters with what we're doing when we're abroad. So I think that connection, and it has been, I think it's been a really good relationship between ourselves and the media over the last couple of years, and having them there at the games is important.
Yeah, and talking about all of that, the pride, the stake in it and everything, and considering that Senegal are, let's say, disputed African champions, they have a lot of strength in their team, both on the pitch and also they have a big strength in depth. So tactically, how would you want to adapt in the game to counter Senegal's strength?
Look, every game has its own unique features.
Sure.
And for us, it depends. As a coach, all coaches have different views on how they train their teams and build their teams. For me, when you have a team of high quality, which I believe the Gambia is, I'm always of a belief that your preparation is 70% about you and what you do and imposing yourself on the game and getting your match winners on the ball. And 30% is about, okay, what do we need to tweak slightly to counter certain individuals or certain tactical approaches that the opponent have. So 70% about yourself, 30% about the opponent. If you're a very weak team, if you're maybe a country ranked 200 in the world or 180 in the world, and you're playing a country ranked 50th in the world, maybe it's the opposite way around. Maybe you're training 70% about the opponent and only 30% about you. But so for us, it's always, we've got quality. So training's always 70% about us. We know who we are. We know what our strengths are. We also know what our weaknesses are. And we're continually working on both of them to try and improve and try and raise our level and cut out little mistakes that might come along the way. But naturally, like same with any match, we don't treat a friendly any differently to a competitive match in terms of our preparation. So for the last sort of month, we've been going in depth into the Senegalese team, both in terms of what they did at the recent AFCON, but also looking beyond that and looking at their last half a dozen home matches, because how you play at a tournament is different than how you play at home, different how you play away. And so looking at all of these things and trying to understand what are the patterns in their play, what are the things that they will try to do most of the time, and we believe we know that, and we have plans for that. Just because you have a plan doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You've got to execute, but we have plans for it. But a lot of it's also about us. And I can only refer, yes, we're playing against, after the most recent tournament, the best team on the African continent. But the last time we played against African champions away in Abidjan back in March last year, the Ivory Coast, and you got to remember, when we went into the game, the Ivory Coast had won their previous 15 home games. The best home record of any national team in the world. And yes, we lost the game. We lost the game 1-0. But we came out of it, and their goalkeeper, the Ivorian goalkeeper, was man of the match.
That shows the intensity from your end.
We came away from that game really disappointed that we hadn't not just taken a point, but taken all 3 points, we felt, given the chances we had. And so when you look at performances like that, for me, and again, when we went into that game, it was 70% about us, 30% about the opponent. And, okay, result is king. We know that. But results over the medium to long term do not come if the performances aren't there. And so we go into the game against Senegal. We've done our work. And look, that's all you can do. You prepare well. You give the players everything you can in a simple, straightforward way. You make sure everyone's ready when that whistle goes. and then you hand it over to the players.
Yeah, and the fact is that the levels has changed from years back to now. What they would be considering against us 10 years ago would be different from what they would consider coming into this game.
Yeah, so it's a game. I think it's a very valuable game for us and for Senegal.
Yeah.
And the one thing I always find, and it's one of our frustrations sometimes when we're trying to organize friendlies, because people maybe on the outside don't appreciate how difficult it is to organize friendlies, because the first thing when you're speaking to a federation about a friendly game, especially if they don't know us so well, is they look at the world ranking.
Sure.
And we're currently ranked in around 115, 120. But that's sort of a historical thing, because remember several years ago the Gambia were ranked like 150, 160, and so
up to 170 at a time.
Yeah, and so this explosion of talent that we've seen over the last 6-7 years, we have gradually been moving our way up. But I personally believe wholeheartedly that the players we have in the team, we're really more of a 70 to 80 ranked nation. But when we go and approach teams for friendlies, they're like, oh, but you're 120, we don't want to play someone so lowly ranked. And so, the effort that we've got to go into organizing friendlies is significant. So again, some people might look at it and go, oh, is this good preparation for Senegal for the World Cup to play a lowly ranked nation? But Senegal know it's good preparation because they know that we have players that are equal to, if not better, than some of the players they will face in the World Cup in a few months' time. So, it's a game that's going to be big for both teams.
And that, as we speak, their technicians will be on their boards trying to figure out, how they control certain players in the Gambian team, or how they penetrate, because seeing the last games you played, we've seen a lot of tactical organization within your team, and they will be working out a way to see how this game doesn't become a defeat for them.
But this is the nice thing about football. On a coaching aspect, this is the game of chess we play, before and during the game. But ultimately, as coaches, there's only so much we can do. We hand it over to the players, and that's why, again, I always talk about pride and passion and just that desire, because when it's 11 versus 11, yes, you need the tactics, yes, you need the talent, but you've got to run as hard as you can. You've got to tackle as hard as you can. You've got to play the passes. You've got to communicate. These are not tactical things. This is about, and if you have this high level of pride and passion, then I think all of those things I just mentioned come naturally, and they help you get the victories.
I know you've always been getting the best out of your players in such demanding situations, but this one could be an extraordinary situation. How are you working towards ensuring that every player is at his best in every minute of the game?
I think for me, one of the things I speak to players I try to get players to step outside their football bubble a little bit. Because when you grow up in football, it's very easy to live in this sort of strange, different world than the rest of us do. Now, I wasn't a professional player. I came up as a lifetime coach, and so when you're a player, you get everything done for you, largely. Your club take care of everything for you if you're at a good club. And so I constantly am reminding the players of their privilege and of their, just their good fortune in life. What is generally true, not just in football, but for a lot of us, is we know people along our journey who are more talented than us. I know coaches who are more talented than me. I'm sure you know broadcasters who are more talented than you.
A lot of them.
But what was the difference was you and me and these players, they never gave up. They never backed down. When they stumbled, they dusted themselves off and they went again. They fought for it, because we appreciate that the ability to survive, the ability to outlast your opponent and your rivals in any industry is probably the biggest key to long-term success. And so helping the players to understand this, that talent alone will never get us anywhere. There's a lot of talented players playing community football. You know what I mean? And so but then also saying, look, guys, and most of the players, they get paid very well. They've got to kick a football around for 2 hours a day. and go to the gym.
Yeah.
And they get their meals made for them, and then they go home to their family and they sleep and they enjoy, and they do the same copy and paste the next day for 300 days of a year.
Yeah.
And I try to always get people to remember, you are so fortunate. We are so fortunate to have this life that we have.
Yes.
And how do we give thanks for that life? How do we pay back whatever you believe in, pay back the universe for this gift, this privilege that we have, is going out and giving it everything you've got every day.
Yeah.
And that's all you can ask for of a person. I think people will win, people will lose, people will have good days, people will have bad days in all industries. But if you go out and you give everything you've got inside of you on that given day, I think when you look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the night, you can accept whatever the outcome was. You might be disappointed, that happens, that's life.
Yeah.
And so that's really where we try to take the players. And that's not about football, that's about mindset, that's about life. And again, some people always think about, how do you pick squads? How do you pick teams? How do you, even when I'm a club coach, how do you sign players? And part of it is, I love people who have that type of mindset, who buy into that idea that it's not about talent.
No.
It's about all of these other ingredients that don't take a high school diploma. They don't take, a coaching qualification. It's about who you are as a person.
Yeah, because talent is not enough to make the squad.
No. You've got to. Talent is there's an old saying. Talent will get you into the dressing room. Character will keep you in the dressing room. And that is as true today as it was maybe 100 years ago when someone first said it. I don't know. But that really is true. Talent gets us to look at you. Talent might often get you your first invitation. But then character and mindset and all of these qualities that have nothing to do with football are often the thing that keep you in the dressing room for the long term.
And I'm sure there are players in your team who are key figures in the dressing room but might not be the best on the pitch.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And it's the idea that you have leaders who don't necessarily play. And it's the same thing when you're making up a squad. If you think about it, in a squad of 23 players, 11 will start. In a competitive game, you're allowed 5 substitutions. In a friendly, you're allowed 6. So against this game, against Senegal, the maximum number of players who will make it onto the grass will be 17. That means there's 6 players who will not play. They will not play. Now, some people might think this strange, but we sort of know there's at least 2 or 3 players who we've selected to the squad that we probably think, his chances of making it onto the grass are less because of the other players. Why have you selected him, coach, if he's less likely to play? Because maybe he brings something to the dynamic of the group in terms of his work rate, in terms of his character. Because if you have, after the first 1 or 2 training sessions, it's usually pretty obvious who's likely to start. And so for the players who look at it and go, I'm definitely going to be a substitute in this game, do you want that player to be sad and miserable and sort of giving 50% in training because he knows he's not going to play? Or do you want that player to be the character who says, hey, okay, I'm maybe not going to play, but I want my team to do well, so every day in training I'm going to work harder than I've ever worked before, because by me working harder, it makes the training session better, and it means those 11 guys who do start are better prepared to go and be successful. And so
then
again,
uplift the spirit in the team, because everybody seems, we got to give our best, or else
someone's ready to come and take it. And that's so true as well, because sometimes and you get those surprises along the way. There's of a career, you have players that you think, okay, he's the guy who's a really hard worker, he's a good team player, but maybe he's not the best, he'll not maybe be a regular in the team. But I can think of 2 or 3 players over my career who eventually, they're not the best footballers, but they ended up playing a lot of games because you were like, you know what, he never lets you down. He will never let you down.
John O'Shea.
Well, people like this, people like, look, if you're playing in the Premier League at Manchester United, you're obviously a very talented player, full stop. But, so I think how we bring a squad together, the character and the work rate of the players is so vitally important. How they deal with not just victories, but how they deal with defeats. Because the nature of it is in football, like if you go through an entire career, even if you look at someone as successful as Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, they've still probably lost 30% of the matches they played in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how do you deal with that when you've put everything you have into chasing success and you lose the game, or someone else wins the trophy, or someone else wins the Ballon d'Or? Do you let that affect you negatively, or do you take that disappointment and frustration? Because again, being disappointed and being frustrated are absolutely fine emotions. I always talk to our players that the person I will never keep in my squad is someone who is happy or contented at being a substitute. I want professional substitutes, but I want frustrated substitutes. Because if you're not frustrated about being on the bench, then what are you doing here?
Yeah, because if you're not frustrated, that you might not work hard to get into the team.
So be frustrated, but be professional, and come into training the next day and show that you deserve to be in the team the next time. And when you get your opportunity, whether it's off the substitutes bench or whether it's starting the next game or starting a cup game, then show why you should be in the starting 11. And again, I'm very honest with our players. You know, I think if you spoke to all of our players, look, not every player I've ever worked with in my career is my biggest fan. Because ultimately the guys who get picked in the team like you, the guys who get left out of the team maybe don't like you so much. That's the nature of this game. I understand that. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm friendly. I'm friendly with everybody. But I'm not the player's friend. I'm their coach. I'm the guy who's trying to guide them and try to help them, and in turn hope that they will help me, because I can't be successful without them either. But I definitely, you know, it's about bringing that performance out. It's about, you know, me being honest with them. And so even if they agree or disagree with what I think, I guarantee you they know what I think.
And I'm sure during the course of your stay with the players, you know, especially you said during defeats, some players would always feel like throwing the towel when they lose. But then within the group, there'll be others who will be like, oh, no, we don't lose anything. We can pick ourselves up and then win the next game. You know, how does that make you feel as a coach when you see certain players act that way?
Look, I think guys who constantly, who don't allow defeats to impact them negatively, who are ready to get up and go again, who understand that loss is a part of life, and that they've got to go and find a way to, and it's not that thing about just let your disappointment go or let your anger go. No, use it. It's energy. Can you use it positively? And so, but I think all of that comes, and reactions like that, like that's not something I can really teach the players. Often that's something that comes from their family, you know, and these are things that principles that have been instilled in them by their parents or older siblings or the community that they grew up in. So often a player's character is largely shaped in those first 10, 15 years of their life. So by the time I interact with them in their 20s, they're still learning, because when you're 21, you think, the problem with when you're 21 or 22 is you think you know everything. And the great thing about being 40 is you realize you know very little. And so at some point between the age of 20 and 40, most of us come to that appreciation of, we thought other players react better to me putting an arm around their shoulder and having a chat with them. Some players prefer humor. Some players prefer directness. So all of these things are important. And look, it's not as easy at international level to develop those relationships, because if you think about it, we have, previously there was 5 international windows. Now from 2026 onwards, there's only 4 international windows. So September and October have been merged into one window. So now annually, each window's like 9-10 days long. So we spend about 40 days with the players in camp every year. Whereas in a club environment, you spend 300 days face to face. Now, yes, every week I'm talking with the players on the phone, on video calls, and even, you know, I spend so little time at my house. I travel so much. Like I was I was at my house for 1 week before coming to the Gambia, but prior to that, I was in England for a number of days catching up with our players. Prior to that, I was in Saudi Arabia for close to 2 weeks catching up with our guys there. Prior to that, I was in the Czech Republic catching up with our guys there. And part of it is going to the games and watching and talking to the clubs about how they feel the players doing on their programs. But another big part of it is spending time with the players, going out to dinner, going and meeting their families and understanding their life. Because if you understand someone's life, it gives you maybe a different perspective in how they work and why they work the way they do.
So there's a lot of work in the background. There's a lot of considerations that are made before you finally come up with that squad to play a particular game, especially this game that we're playing in Senegal. You know, and then it would be fair to say that probably the coach make a selection based on the best considerations, and then you don't have any personal vendetta or whatsoever against any player, as some people will portray.
No, it's funny. Some people, and over my career, and all coaches get this, they say, oh, coaches have favorite players. And then I think they expect the reaction to be, no, we don't have favorites. But that's a nonsense. I do have favorite players. They're the ones who help us win football matches. Those are my favorite players. I want footballers who help us win football matches.
Of course.
It doesn't matter how much I like you as an individual. I would like all of our players to be really great people. But I've had a number of players over my career who I look at them and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go out for dinner with you or, you know, whatever. I wouldn't want to spend a lot of time with you because I maybe we don't mix as people. And that's okay. We're all different. But what I want is people who are professional, who are hardworking, who are passionate, who help us win football matches. The worst part of this job, the single worst part of this job is calling somebody and telling them they're not involved. And I do that every camp. I don't know how other coaches do it, but I know how I do it, is that it's my decision. And so it's on me to inform you directly of what's happening and why I've made that call. And sometimes, look at a player who we left out this time. I'll use an example. So Mamadou Baggio has missed out. I love Mamadou. He is such a good footballer. I think anybody in the world, and that doesn't, like my grandmother could tell you Mamadou Baggio is a great footballer. You know, he is, like his quality, his ability to play short and long, his communication skills. He's young, but he's a leader, you know, and he's been a big player for me since I've arrived in this job. He's made some really big performances. And look, he was part of the original sort of 30 players that got provisional invitations. But before he received that invite, I called him and I said, look, Mamadou, you're getting the provisional, but I've got to let you know, I'm not sure if you're going to be in the final 23. Not because I doubt your quality. I know your quality. But the competition for places in that central midfield is so high. And I said to him, I was like, when you look at Ibu Adams, Abubakar Bari, Mamadou Dramé, and Jesper Cisse, all of them are starting every week for their club, and they're playing at an extremely high level, scoring goals, man of the match performances. And since Christmas time, Baggio really hasn't played. He's played like 15 minutes in the league and he played one cup game. And he understood. He disappointed. But he said, look, he understands. If that's what happens, he understands it. Because he maybe would have a different view if he was playing 90 minutes every week. And so, but I hate having that phone call because as a character, he's exactly what I want in the squad. As a talent, he has huge talent, no doubt about it. But I also have to try to be fair as I see it to other players. And if I were to include him, I would have to leave somebody else out.
Which might not be fair.
Exactly. But again, I have to isolate that to that specific position. Because you might then, someone might say, after having listened to this, go, oh, but you left him out because he's not playing so much games. But there's a couple of players in the forward line who haven't been playing as much recently.
I was going to say that also. You know, we'll talk about the case of Musa Baro, for example. But there were players like Abdoulaye Diallo who are highly technical, and have been good performers with the national team.
Yep.
But then they don't make the cut for this team as well.
Yeah, well, obviously Ablai's been out for a little while now.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Ablai's been very much in and out of
Yeah.
Servette this season. The first half of this season, he really didn't play a lot. He had a few little injury issues.
Yeah.
Now, since Christmas time,
Yeah.
it's picked up, but it's
Yeah.
still probably only 40 or 50% of the minutes.
Sure.
You know, he sort of plays one game,
Yeah.
doesn't play the next game, comes in as a sub the game after. And so this is better than the first half of the season, no doubt.
Yeah.
And we know Ablai's, the talent there.
Huge talent.
It's just but again, it's just when you come down to it and you look at the players that we felt, we just wanted to go with it. And look, you even look, this happens all over. You look at England yesterday, left out Trent Alexander-Arnold. You can have no doubt of his quality and his ability, but in terms of what we're trying to achieve, especially for this game, and you look at someone else like, I'll touch on the Moussa Barrow thing.
Yeah, Moussa Barrow, sure.
Moussa has been recovering from surgery for the last 3.5 months.
Yeah.
He had a pretty major surgery, and he's been recovering from it. As I said, I was in Saudi Arabia at his club a couple of weeks ago, so I was able to be there firsthand in terms of where he was on his recovery process. At that point, he was just about to return to team training.
Yeah.
And the general rule is, or my rule anyway, is if you've been out for sort of 2 months or more, a long period, you've got to complete 7 or 8 full training sessions before we put you on the bench for minutes. If I was a club coach, that would be my approach.
Yeah.
And so now when we reach this weekend, Moussa will have completed, I think it's 12 to 14 full training sessions with his club.
Yeah.
So on a physical conditioning point of view, he's right at the moment where he's ready to be considered for team selection.
For team selection, yes.
And
at
so
his club,
now, normally that should happen at your club. So why with a national team? Because again, we're not just looking at it in this individual game. 2026 is a big year for us. And actually, some of the things we're going to discuss and talk about in this camp are not just about this game. They're about the whole year. And for me, I just looked at it and I thought on 2 things. One, short term. If we're 1-0 behind with 15, 20 minutes to go in the game, who would you like to bring off the bench to maybe get that goal? Moussa Barrow's not a bad option.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a few other guys who are good options as well for us, but definitely he's somebody that would be a good option for that. And also short term, just his influence around the camp. He's a big personality. He's a leader. He leads by example. All of these things. But then you look long term. And what I didn't want is I didn't want to have all of these sort of discussions that we're going to have with, let's say, the leadership group of the team and have an important component of that missing. And so really, someone like Moussa being involved, part of it is for this camp, but part of it is for September, October, November as well.
Which is very fair. But considering, he has been on the sideline for a couple of months, and then at this stage, he is almost getting into for selection of his team. Was it a difficult decision for them to say, hey, coach, okay, no problem, we'll allow him to come and play?
No, because he's fit. That's the thing, is like, and I said this in the press conference the other day, another player who is going to miss this camp is Aliou Fadera.
Aliou.
And again, we were in the sort of similar position with Aliou in that injury. I think it was a triple fracture of the cheekbone. Don't ask me for the official term of whatever that bone's called, but I think it was a triple fracture. And so he's had surgery on it. Now, as you've seen many times over the years, when players take a facial injury, they often return to playing very fast, wearing a mask. You've seen many players over the year, Osherman being one of the key ones.
Edgar David has been on it for a very long year.
So returning, playing in a mask. And sometimes you're back in action in 1 week, 2 weeks, sometimes it takes a month. But you really don't know. It gets checked on every week to see how the bone is fusing together and is it okay to return back to contact. And so really, we made the decision that Aliou would not be involved the day before we released the final 23. Because in discussions with the club and in discussions with the player, it was, look, it's really, he needs another at least 10 days, 2 weeks of non-contact before. And so again, we put the safety of the player first. And so we said, again, we spoke with Alio about it. He was disappointed that he was going to miss it. But we took that decision with him, with the club, with us, with all the medical staff. And those discussions happen. Whereas, again, because Musa is fit to play, there's no risk really of recurring injury. And so, the club, there was no pushback on it. They received the invitation, they acknowledged it, and so fine.
And Salou Dramé could probably make his debut for the Gambia.
Possibly. Let's see. It's not always, I think people get very excited when they see a new name and a new face that they think they go immediately in. But often you might be involved in 1 or 2 camps, and then you get to know your teammates, you get to know how we play, all of these things, and then maybe you make your debut 1 or 2 camps later. But also maybe you make your debut for the last 10 minutes, you know, or I don't know, people maybe didn't even notice it. Against Kuwait in November, Tijan Sona, our young left back who's playing in Europe, Spanish-born, came on for the last 1 minute of the game. So sometimes debuts are not they're good, you want to play, but there's many types of debuts. But look, Salou, the top tier. I don't know how much people know about Norwegian football, but Lillestrøm are a big club. So the fact that they'd been relegated was a crazy thing. It's like seeing Manchester United relegated or Tottenham relegated. It's just, it's something you wouldn't expect. And so he went there, was a huge part of their sort of rebirth, if you will, to win the division and get promoted again. But also they won the Norwegian Cup, which qualifies them for European competition. And again, their opening game of the league season last week, they had a 3-1 win. He played 90 minutes. Just really exciting young winger, lots of technique on both his right and left foot. Again, having met him personally, when I speak to him and find out what are the things that drive him, what is it he wants from life, you know, these conversations that I've had with him face to face like we are now, just give me a sense of a young man who is very driven, and who knows that you've got to work for it if you want it. And so from the little interactions we've had and from our scouting and analysis of him, we think he fits perfectly into what we're trying to do over the long term. But again...
But there were a lot of rumors around him that he was not ready to play for the Gambia. He might probably play for Denmark or Norway.
Again, it's one of these things. Look, I understand that... Every day there needs to be a new news story. You know what I mean? It's like newspapers and blogs and websites and stuff. They only get viewership. If you only put one news article up every day, or sorry, one news article up every week, you wouldn't have very many followers. And so people want new content every day. And I think what you see in a lot of this that I see sometimes is people don't make statements, they ask questions. So they'll say, what if this player chooses to play for this country and the Gambia miss out on him? Now, and then all of a sudden this becomes a headline when actually the player never said it. The federation never said it. And it started, and then even the person who was the origin never said it. They didn't say he is going to do this. They said, what if he does this? But then someone else picks up the story and the what if drops off. And you know, these things spiral.
And so Jonathan wants to play for Gambia instead of Northern Ireland.
So these are the things of how stories can develop. But I rely on 0% of that. We rely on 0% of that. What we rely on is picking the phone up or booking a flight and going and meeting with the players and looking them in the eye and having a conversation and saying, what is it you want to do? Because this is who we are. This is where we think you can fit into what we're trying to achieve. Never promise anything. In fact, I make it very clear to every player, I'm not promising I'm going to pick you. There's no part of me will ever say to a player, hey, if you agree to come and play for us, you're going to be the starting centre back or the starting goalkeeper, the starting striker. I will never say that. What I say to them is, I think you you have an opportunity to be in our team, but you have these other players who you have to compete with to get the spot. But the reason I'm here talking to you is I believe you can have a positive impact. And this is what I think it can mean for your career as well. Now, look, some of those conversations go very well. Some of them turn around and people say, yeah, we're really excited about that. Sometimes I'm even surprised of it, because usually if they say they're eager, the next step is, because often if you're born in Europe or outside the Gambia, you maybe don't have your Gambian passport yet. So we've got to apply, do that process and get all the parents' documents. But sometimes we've had a couple over the last year where the player he's born in Europe, has never played for the Gambia, but has already himself went and organized the Gambian passport, because he says, oh, I always wanted to play for the Gambia. I know I'm born in Denmark, Spain, Germany, wherever, but I wanted, since I was 10 years old, to play for the Gambia. So when I became a professional, my family got the passport, so we didn't have to wait. And again, stuff like that shows me, that's, you wanted this from a young age. But some conversations, the player is, coach, I don't feel connected to my Gambian heritage, my Gambian roots. It's not something I really feel passionate about. So thank you for coming to visit me. But it's a no thank you. That's okay as well, because and I hear this thing sometimes where people talk about, oh, you got to convince the person to come and play. But I want, and I hope Gambians want, players who will give everything they've got, who will suffer for the cause, who will go through things that most people wouldn't go through in order to bring success to the nation. And for that, you need to be passionate about it. And so if someone needs convinced to come and play for the Gambia, is that the person you want out there in a pivotal World Cup qualifier or a pivotal AFCON game? I'm not sure it is. And again, other people can have a different viewpoint. That's fine. But again, I put pride and passion in the shirt so high on my list of must-haves that if someone's like, oh, well, maybe, it turns me off a little bit. You know
so you go to war with soldiers you trust.
Exactly. And so, but look, back to Salyu, really exciting player. Let's see how he goes in this first camp. He'll be meeting a lot of guys for the very first time. He's going to have to learn. He knows a few of the people already, but he's going to have to learn 20 or so names, and look, he's also got a lot of competition on the wide areas of the field. You've got Yankuba Minte, you have Musa Barrow, you have Abdoulaye Bamba, you have Yusuf Asanyang in the squad. And so there's a lot of competition for places in the flanks.
I was going to say, talk about Omar Colley and the leadership he brings in the team, but then because we are talking about players with Gambian origin, we have a youngster at Barcelona that is called up for the Spanish youth teams. Have you been in contact with him? Do you see any interest of him, or are you hopeful that someday he might represent the Gambia?
Yeah, look, obviously Ibrahima Tunkara is a very talented player, what he's doing at the minute. And there has been contact, even I think people saw that he was in the Gambia at Christmas time, and there was contact with the Federation there, and yes, been in contact with his sort of agents and whatnot. Look, I think everyone saw, is it possible in the future? The answer is yes, because the door is not closed. But I also think Ibrahima has also made it very clear that at this point in time, he's very focused, on establishing himself at Barcelona. Because playing for Barcelona B and playing for Barcelona under-18s is not playing for Barcelona.
No.
It's very different.
Very, very
There's
different.
a lot of players who've played for Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Arsenal at B-team level who have never played at first-team level.
Mikel Arteta probably will tell you a better story about that.
So there's a lot. So for him, it's securing his professional career. But also, I think he's made it very obvious recently about he has also strong desires to represent the Spanish national team. Now, that's his view today as a 16-year-old. Will that still be how he thinks when he's 18, when he's 20, when he's 22? we are all, it's okay to change our minds in
Yeah,
our lives.
yeah.
You know, the things we believed 10 years ago are not necessarily the things we believe now.
Yeah.
And so the communication, we'll always keep those lines of communication open. And yeah, but it's got to be the player's choice. There's no sense of, you don't just call somebody up and he comes and plays for your national team. That's not how it works.
No way.
And look, and that's also the thing. Even some of those players that I mentioned to you who I've met, and I sort of get a sense that they do have a real connection to the Gambia, but maybe they're playing currently under 21 football for their country of birth. And they say to me, look, coach, it is something I have been thinking about. However, I would like to wait and make my decision later. I'm only, because again, you're asking this of maybe someone who's 19, 20, 21 years old. So they're saying, yes, and I'd like to wait. And in that case, again, that's okay. It's your life. We will keep in contact. If I'm in, because often these players play in the same cities or countries as other Gambian players. So when I'm doing my scouting trips, it's like, look, okay, you're not in our squad at the moment, but is it okay with you when I'm in town, we meet up for a coffee and we can catch up in that way? And usually it's, that's fine. And you keep that relationship going so that, and it's a long project, because sometimes a player is telling you today, I'm not ready. And it might take 2 or 3 years. But again, it always has to be based on a passion and a pride to represent the nation. There's no part of me, I will explain the situation to people, but the idea of convincing them and selling them really hard this opportunity, I'm not sure that's what a national team coach should be doing. I think there needs to be a burning desire inside the player.
Okay, and then that desire comes with the explanation of the national team coach, and the player comes in. So on the squad, Omar Colley and the leadership he brings, especially playing against an opponent like Senegal.
Yeah, look, Omar is a player who, first of all, a fantastic individual. Again, he's somebody that, as a head coach, he knows his own mind and he speaks his mind. And I'll not lie to you, not all of the conversations me and Omar have are nice, flowery conversations. But we respect each other. Well, I respect him massively. I believe he respects me in the same way. And we do get on well. But that doesn't mean all conversations are nice and flowery.
Of course.
We tell each other what we think, and we have discussions, and it's a very good relationship. He is your definition of a leader. If you were to have sort of the Gambian dictionary of what a leader is, you would maybe put Omar's photo in beside it. He's a great example to the younger players in terms of how to conduct yourself on and off the pitch, how to prepare your body. And he has such a huge experience. He went from the Gambia, he played at sort of more moderate levels in Europe to begin with, and then to jump up to Serie A and compete at the highest levels of European football, into then the crazy, intense environment of Turkish football. And now obviously out as a real leadership figure at his club Alderia in Saudi, looking to lead them back up into the Saudi Pro League, a really important key figure for them. So he has this world of experience on and off the pitch. And he's a real leader. So I think for him, we've got a young squad. I mentioned to you that it's an average age of around 24, which is super young for a national team. The average age, if you looked at, let's say, the German national team or the English national team or even the Senegalese national team, their average age is probably around 28. Successful national teams, average age about 28. Successful club teams, average age about 26, because clubs have to operate the transfer market. And so for us to be 24 is extremely young. But over the next few years, it's going to mature and it's going to flower. But having someone like Omar, but beyond that, like Babukar Gay, like Ibu Adams, like Sheriff Sinyan, these, like Musa Barrow, these players have such a huge role beyond their footballing quality in terms of leading the group and helping the other players to mature in international football. So, Omar's a player who's been there and done that. He's the most capped player ever for the Gambia, I believe. And he's obviously been to multiple African Cups. He's led the team. And, he's an important cog in our system, and one who I think, look, none of us go on forever.
Yeah.
And at some point, Omar's journey with the national team will stop in the future.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, I think people will reflect really positively on his career. I think
And
they should
he
already.
has been around from under 17
Yeah.
all the way to the various categories of the national team. And I think if I get the records right, he's right now the most caps player for the Gambia.
So look, this is one of, I know everybody wants to see the new shiny thing,
Yeah.
and this isn't just in football, this is everything. We all want to buy the new product, get the new phone, we want the new car, we want something new, but you cannot buy experience.
No way.
You cannot.
Yes.
And so that thing that Omar possesses, he has got it through 15 years of a professional career.
Yeah.
And as good as the young guys coming in are, and maybe at some point they will take his place in the team. That is natural.
Yeah.
But they will always, at least in the initial phase, lack that experience because it just comes with time.
Of course. So what would success mean for you in the Gambia-Senegal friendly, irrespective of the scoreline?
Look, we're going there to try and win.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We're going to go and try and win.
Yeah.
In order to win, we will have to put on a top performance, and we know the metrics by which we measure our performances. You know, we have, in all phases of the game, we have, I think, 4 or 5 in each metric that says, okay, we want to do these things more often, and if we do it more often, it will be our identity and we will be close to success.
Sure.
So we have all of those metrics that we measure. But football's about winning football matches.
Yeah.
And so, for example, after we mentioned the Ivorian game last year, where we did play very well for most of the game, and if you want, I hate using the term, but if we deserve to win the game, but football doesn't care what you deserve. It doesn't.
No.
And so after the game, I was actually an incredibly frustrated person after the game because a lot of people were sort of congratulating me on the team's performance and people saying, oh, the Ivorian officials can't believe how we played. They've not seen a team come to Abidjan and play like this in years. And I'm like, I really don't care. I don't want the well done, you've got a nice team speech. I would rather our opponents don't speak to us after the game because that probably means we've won. And so for me, I'm incredibly hungry for that. But I also understand that football's this crazy life where you can play the worst game of your life and win, or you can play the best game that's ever been seen in the history of football and still lose.
Of course.
And so football, the alignment between performance and result in the short term doesn't necessarily exist. But in the medium to long term, it does. If you consistently put on performances of a high enough standard, you will win more than you lose. And so we're going to go there and try and win. That will ultimately be the barometer that we test ourselves by. Because look, and I don't know if people think I'm a madman or something, but we've got to go back to AFCON in 2027 in Nairobi. But there's no part of me wants to go to AFCON and just play 3 group games and come home. I want to get into the knockout phases. I believe when we play any team in Africa on our day, we can win the match. And if that is true, then, you know, there is no ceiling. We can go as high as, if we believe in it, we can go as high as we want. And so for me, part of that journey is turning good performances, great performances, into victories in the most difficult environments. We went to Tunis and beat Tunisia in their own backyard. If you had asked 1,000 people before the game around the world in football what they expected the result of that game to be, I don't know if you would have got 100 people saying a Gambia win.
No way.
And so we have shown that we can go to these hostile fortresses and get results.
And this match fits that description.
And that's why we want games like this. That's why we want to play these games. It's like, but we don't do it. If we were earlier in our development, where I felt going and playing Senegal and Dakar was a guaranteed loss, or would be losing it 99 times out of 100, I might not agree to play it.
Sure.
Because you've got to go through the development process. You cannot, if you're in your house, you cannot jump from the bottom floor to the top floor. No. You have to build a staircase.
Sure.
And so, but the reason we're playing teams like Senegal is because we believe that we can win. Yeah. But we have to bring our best performance. So
definitely. And on a final note, you spoke about the 2026 qualifiers and AFCON 2027 in Kenya. Considering assessing your team and the work that you have put place, I know you are very hopeful that the Gambia will return to AFCON. But how big would such games and even playing in every international friendly help you prepare the team in order to achieve that objective?
Yeah, having the team engaged as often as possible is pivotal. And it was one of the things when I came into this job, because look, I know there's so many examples around African football of teams being engaged in their competitive windows because they have to be, they're compelled to by CAF and FIFA. But when it comes to a friendly window, teams miss the windows because maybe wherever they get their budget from, whether that's government, whether that's sponsors, whether that's federation finances, it's the budget isn't there as much for friendlies as for competitive games in some situations. But when I took the job, before I took it, it was the conversation we had was like, we must be engaged in the friendly windows. Every window we must be engaged in. And I was given those assurances that we would be. Now, again, that doesn't make it easy because all of these things have to be paid for.
Sure.
And look, Gambia is not Germany, is not Japan, is not Egypt. We don't have the same resources as those mega nations of football
in fact, our budget for youth and sport ministry is one of the lowest compared to other ministries.
Exactly. In the country. And so for us, we still have to work incredibly hard to get these friendlies done. But look, ever since I've come in, every window we've been engaged. Last June was the first time we didn't have competitive games. We did a training camp in Morocco. In November, we went to Egypt and did the training camp and played against Kuwait. Now this time we're going to Dakar, we're going to have the training camp and we're playing against Senegal. Again, we're already looking at our options, already planning has started for June, a few months out in terms of getting that locked in because we know once we get into September, we're back into competitive games. So we have little enough time as it is, like I mentioned earlier in the show, 40 days a year with the players. Now, if you think about that, that includes, 10 games? So remove 10. So now you've got 30 days. You've got travel days and rest days. So let's move another 10 days, now down to 20 days. So in a year, we have about 20 training sessions with the team. That's so little. That's so
and
little.
Everybody expect you to achieve so much, with just less than 25 days engagement with the players.
So this is, and so that's why if you miss an international window, you then those 20 training days now become 15 training days, and all of a sudden you start to see that international football, if you don't have the training days, becomes a little bit more like buying a lottery ticket. You just don't know what's going to happen on the pitch. Whereas if you have the training days as most as you can, then you can't guarantee what's going to happen on the pitch, but you put yourself in a better position to be successful. So, it's so important. And again,
that makes your job more hectic than that of club coaches because they have the luxury of time when you don't have that.
Yeah, in terms of, as a club coach, you have so much more. You can have impact at a much faster rate because even if you think about it, you go in as a club and if you're fortunate enough to go in and have a pre-season, you have 6-7 weeks to work with your team behind closed doors almost before you go into a competitive game. So already you have this block of, 35, 40 training days before your first competitive match. So you can suddenly see why at club level you see sort of, you look at the way Guardiola has had his teams playing over the years. You see the way, you know, you look at Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid. They have a very defined Como, where Fabregas are doing so well now, but they've got such a defined playing style. But that defined playing style comes from practice and rehearsal every day in training. Whereas at international level, we have players, 23 players coming from 23 different football clubs who have 23 different playing styles, who we bring together and have to remind them quickly of what the Scorpion style is. And we do that in meetings, we do it in video content, we do it before when they're on the airplane traveling to camp, they get like a little video package to watch. Again, just to put them into Scorpion mode, so that when they step into the hotel, they already know, okay, this is the expectation of us as a team this week. This is the expectation of me as an individual this week. This is what the coach is thinking for this upcoming game. So that now, almost, we do have a camp opening meeting, but we could miss it if we wanted, because we've already given the players all the information en route to camp. So we try to get information to them in a straightforward and quick format. But so these friendly
when are you traveling to Dakar, and how many training sessions do you intend to have there?
So I believe we're traveling at the end of next week. So we will have the entire group, we believe, for 4 sessions.
For 4 sessions.
Yeah. Now, the final session is sort of half a session, because you're in the stadium. You're probably doing 45 minutes. You don't want to do too much, because you never know who's watching in a stadium.
Your opponents could be peeping on you.
As one person referred to me before, he said, another coach said to me, match day -1 is kindergarten. You do kindergarten stuff in training, because you can't do the big stuff, the important stuff.
No way.
The match day -1's more just sharpening, feeling the pitch that you're going to play on the next day. So really, in that sense, you've got 3 training sessions to remind them of their role within the national team.
It's a pleasure, Coach, but I would not leave without putting you on the spot. Okay? Senegal, disputed African champion, so there will probably no trophy presentation at the match. Are you disappointed with CAF's decision?
Yes. I don't know the ins and outs of, look, there will be probably an encyclopedia of legal paperwork behind that decision, and I don't think any of us have seen that. We've seen a statement. And so I don't know. Everyone has their opinion, but opinion based without the information isn't a hugely valuable thing. But for me, it saddens me because African football is such an amazing thing. You know, the energy, the quality, the entertainment value. Sometimes you watch games in some leagues and some competitions and you're not entertained. There might be some really good players on the pitch, but it's not that entertaining. Whereas you watch the African Cup of Nations, and I think the reason why all of us love it so much is because the entertainment is so high, and you really don't know what the result's going to be. You know, you could see a nation who, Gambia's first appearance 3 editions ago, nobody would ever have imagined at the very first appearance in history to go to the quarterfinals.
No way.
You know what I mean? And so African football, Zambia winning it so many years ago, these things are things that you don't see in European football, in South American football so much. And so African football is special in that sense. And so for something like this to have sort of, you know, it'll make people question African football in a way that I don't think
they are doing now.
In a way that I don't think is fair on the game, because if this is the only snapshot that you see about the game on the continent, and you think, you know, oh, this is, and I'm like, so that makes me sad. And so regardless of what way it goes, because I'm sure our neighbours, Senegal, I know they're going to go to the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Already they're in the process.
And so, you know, whatever that decision will be, let's wait and see. But I just look at it and I think it just really makes me sad. It's a bit of a mess.
And if you're in the position of the Moroccan coach, would you say, oh, yes, finally we've done it?
I don't. I can't even imagine. I just, it's so outside of the realm
Yeah.
of something anyone expected.
Yeah.
I, I just don't. I can't even think I've been in a position in my life that is anywhere close to comparable to the idea that you receive a phone call and they tell you, oh, a case has been decided and now you're champions. I just don't know.
That's not the way you want to win.
And look, I think my reaction to seeing the news when it came out was probably this. You couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was such an unexpected announcement and in the modern world of so much fake news, you're sort of thinking, your first thought is, this can't be real.
And then you sound like Donald Trump, oh, it's a hoax.
And so, but...
Yeah.
So look, but I also know, the one thing I know is that African football has faced many challenges over the years.
Yeah.
And at every stage, whether quickly or a little bit slower, we've overcome those challenges.
Yeah.
And so whilst this is a sad moment, I use that word again for African football, I think we will overcome it as, you know, as a footballing community on the continent.
Inshallah.
So yeah, I think people have sort of said, will people look less on the next African Cup of Nations? I guarantee you, once all the competing nations touch down in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania in 18 months' time, I think everyone will be ready for the celebration of African football again.
And Jonathan will be there to lead the Gambian team into its third AFCON tournament.
Yeah, that's what we're going to work every hour that we have to achieve.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, and we're grateful hosting you on this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Wish you all the best in Senegal on the 31st. Probably we'll be there with you. Good. And we will see in the post-match interviews.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. So,
good.
It's a pleasure. It's a long one.
No, very good.
But
Thank
it
you.
works it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.